Good evening and welcome to the January 28th regular school committee meeting budget workshop. It's 4:30 p.m. We're in LGI 1 at the high school. If you could all join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And Mrs. Anderson has let us know that she's going to be late, so she'll probably just join us when she arrives. And Mr. Cutlass is joining us remotely. And I'm just going to start right off here with, we do have an announcement, sorry, before I get to you. The regular school committee meeting will be televised and recorded, may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and on Verizon Channel 34 on youtube.com/Tewksbury-TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting. At this time, I'm asking if anybody's recording, but seeing that nobody's present, I don't think that's happening. So I'll turn this now over to Mr. Libby, unless you have something to add, Mrs. Terry.
No, obviously, this is a process in our annual budget setting, and Mr. Libby has created an amazing presentation for you that I hope is very informative to not only our residents watching, but to you as well as how the Tewksbury Public Schools budget has incorporated all of the district strategic plans, or at least the priority goals, as well as our operating expenses. So, Mr. Libby.
Thank you, Superintendent, and thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, this is our, we usually do 3 looks at the budget during the springtime. Again, as the superintendent said, this is a process. We're constantly monitoring things that impact our budget over the next few months as we approach town meeting, where the budget is ultimately approved by the voters. So different funding sources become available. Some things, expenses change. So as those things occur over the next couple months, we'll be updating this presentation in a shorter version. This will be the kind of the whole big picture, and then we'll focus on any changes that occur over the next couple months, as they certainly will and do every year. So we'd like to start off with our district strategy, which is a theory that was developed in consultation with the school committee and the administrative team as to what how the district should operate in general terms. I'm not going to read that to you, but we try to follow this strategy and think about this strategy as we make decisions with regard to the budget. And the theory of action, which goes along with that district initiative, also something we keep in mind and try to keep in mind as we make budgeting decisions with any discretionary funds that we have in the budget. So the school budget consists of 4 major parts, 3 of which are managed by the school department. And when we talk about the budget, school budget, we generally talk about salary, operating, and capital outlay. These 3 items here. And then our fixed cost is our 4th part of the budget, which we manage and share with the town. These are things, so salary is all wages paid to employees, whether they're salaried, hourly, overtime, anything that gets paid through payroll goes into a salary account. Our operating accounts are pretty much everything else: supplies, utilities, transportation, contracted services, things that are needed to run the school department but don't fall into a salary category. And then capital outlay, this is an area of larger expenses with a longer life value, either a fix on a building or products that are designed to last for a longer amount of time. Things like sometimes we do tech purchases under the capital outlay budget if they're going to be, have a lifetime expectancy of longer than 5 years. Things like that can go into capital outlay as well. The fixed costs are our employee health insurance, unemployment, insurance on our buildings, things of that nature that we share some of those costs and some of the same expenses that you see on the town side of government fall into the fixed cost category. And we get charged our share for those fixed costs if they can be assigned directly as a result of school, either personnel or school expenses. So we'll be focusing mainly on salary, operating, and capital outlay through this presentation. We will touch a little bit on fixed costs. This year we're expecting to see a significant increase in our health insurance costs for our employee health insurance. The estimate we were getting from Blue Cross Blue Shield was between 13 and 15%. We don't have those exact numbers yet, but since it's such a large impact, we'll touch on that a little more than we normally do during our budget presentation. So the school budget process is fluid. The budget that we present today will change over the next few months, as I mentioned, and it represents the plan of the district to best address the prioritized needs and goals aligned to our strategic plan, which we've been discussing at previous meetings, and we'll touch on throughout the course of the year, using the resources available suited for each need at that moment in time. Our needs are constantly changing, our resources are constantly changing, and our budget will change to reflect these changes between now and final approval. So the school budget is part of the overall town budget. We don't have a separate budget just for schools, but we're a part of the town budget. We're a big part, but we are still a part of the town budget of Tewksbury. So we review it and recommend it by our school committee to the selectmen and the finance committee. The finance committee then recommends approval at town meeting of an overall town budget. And the school budget is part of that overall town budget that gets approved at town meeting. So the final actual approval of funds happens at town meeting and rests with the residents who attend the town meeting. This slide shows our student data for last year, the current year, and what we project for next year. Overall, we went up 30, 40 students between 24 and 25 to this year. Looks like it's going to be pretty level going into next year, 26, 27. We assume all the students will advance one grade when we move them forward. We assume same enrollment at preschool. We don't know till those folks show up to register what our preschool numbers will look like, but they're generally pretty similar year over year. And we're using census figures to estimate our kindergarten enrollment. We have our team did a pretty deep dive into last year's census, this year's census, and students we know about in our preschool to come up with estimates on kindergarten numbers for next year. And we also assume an 80 student drop from grade 8 to grade 9. We have 80 slots at Shawshene Tech. It's generally somewhere in that ballpark of students that leave us to go to either the tech or a private school option for high school. Areas of focus that we particularly were paying attention to this year in personnel. We want to continue to transform any areas we can that we're using contracted services into employees, mainly in the special ed area. During negotiations with our educational support personnel, that was a focus for both sides of the table. Really wanted to move away from the contracted service into more of an employee model for our educational aides. We continue to implement the recommendations of our special education audit by strengthening programs that improve a more vertically aligned general ed tiered instruction, and special ed programming at each school, and evaluate the restructuring of our PK programs and include Pathway C services at all schools. Something that, from our special ed audit, we wanted to make sure that it was clear for folks entering our system that there's a pathway for students to follow as they move from school to school. On the operational side, we're always just searching for savings opportunities in transportation, utilities, technology, supplies, or maintenance, and trying to keep ahead of those rising cost trends in those areas. In the area of technology, communications, any place we can improve and consolidate our systems. Make sure we provide enough inventory for our one-to-one device program. That's been, the tech folks know when those devices are becoming obsolete and have a replacement plan in place. So we want to make sure we can finance those and maximize our use of our E-rate program that we participate in. We receive services and sometimes goods for 50% or 40% of their standard cost. In the area of building improvements, we've reduced our capital outlay budget from what the historical amount was over the years in order to meet our salary and operational needs. So the thinking here is future capital projects will require funding via town meeting articles. We do have plans for at least one. We're waiting on this assessment that's being conducted by our consultant that's working with the TSFSC before we get too heavily into predicting what our capital outlay projects will be going forward. Another focus we have in that area is on safety and security. We've performed some internal and external security audits, and we want to take advantage of those using that information. Any opportunities that some are no cost or very little cost, get those implemented as soon as we can. So our process, go over how our process works over the next few slides. Salaries, typically about 70% of our budget. We're in the people business, so most of our money is tied up in salary. What we do is start with the current payroll roster and try to level service the district by keeping the employee count the same, looking at going into next year. We advance everyone their steps, lanes, and longevity amounts per all of our employee contracts. And the table down here kind of shows the results of each of those steps, the cost of living adjustment that's in each contract, the steps in each contract, the longevity in each contract, and then the total for each of those amounts. So circle this. We're at just a level staff our schools going into next year. We needed a $1.844 million increase. Over on this side, we have the similar numbers for FY26, and then the percent increase compared to FY26 for each category, and whether it's funded through our budget. LEA stands for Local Educating Authority. We have a lot of acronyms, and that's one that I throw around a lot and need to explain sometimes what that means. Or if it's a grant revolving account. LEA basically means our budget. So after we roll the people forward, we adjust for our known retirements and resignations. We align employees in the appropriate grant revolving accounts. We examine all of our part-time, overtime, extra duty accounts kind of to see how those align with our budgeted expectations. And you'll see this is bold and larger on each of these slides during our process. We're constantly reviewing with building principals and department heads, particularly things that impact their area directly. if we see something that looks like it's going to change, we want to talk to the people on the ground and find out how it's going to impact their operation before we make any changes to our budget. So adjusting for, on the operating side, which is typically about 28% of our budget, we adjust for known or anticipated contractual increases. We have to bid our transportation contract, both regular ed, in-town, special education, mostly vans, and our out-of-district transportation are all up for renewal at the end of this year. We've added 5% across the board on utilities, not really knowing what those numbers are going to pan out to be. Again, our health insurance, we're projecting a 13 to 15% increase. And out-of-district tuitions are the OSD, Occupational Services Division of the state sets that increase based on a number of economic factors throughout the year. And they've allowed our out-of-district schools a 3.04% increase in tuition. So they'll all take advantage of that and raise out-of-district tuitions by that amount. Then there are also some that apply for a greater increase. It's about a 2-year process. They apply with the state, stating why they need a higher increase than that. Sometimes those increases will be 10 to 15%, depending on what the school's needs are and how they present it to the state. But we have a couple of schools that are have been granted a larger increase for next year. We knew about those, so we've adjusted the budget accordingly. And again, review with principals, department heads throughout this process. Next step, when we think we have an idea of what we're going to need, we meet with the town manager. He lets us know what's available in town, projected new revenues for next year, and we share our initial needs. Typically, the historical deal has been the school gets 60% of new revenues, the town gets 40% of new revenues. This is where this pie shows where the money comes from. Most of it is in our local property tax levy, 80%. We get 13%-ish of our budget through local aid and 8% from local receipts. These other enterprise and other receipts, enterprise funds go strict. Those are sort of the town's version of revolving funds. They need to be spent on items associated with those enterprise funds. So those don't really count towards our town budget per se. Now, why do we get to the 60-40%? These are just going back 2 years. The amount that can be assessed of our spending to the schools was 60.52 in FY26, 60.26 in FY27, and roughly 40 for the town. So that's why the 60-40 split in new revenues has been kind of seen as a fair deal for both sides. This year, when we met with the town manager, him and the director of finance heard a lot of our school needs, and the town needs were going to be higher than their initial projection on revenues. So they had only projected new revenues at $1.2 million and level funded state aid when we started this process. In the second line here, you see that the town manager adjusted his projected new revenues in state aid to try to cover all departments' requests. The town departments were forced to cut $465K, or 1.44% from their original budget requests. We were asked to cut $508K, or 0.82% from our budget. And at the end of the day, this year, we received 63.3% of the new revenues, the town 36.7% of new revenues. So we did okay at the table with the town manager, and they're very understanding of our needs and want to support the educational program that we run here in the school district. Last thing we look at through our process is other revenue sources, grants and revolving accounts. We have to be careful here, though, to make sure it's inappropriate for the need or use of the particular fund. Is the revenue going to be recurring? We have some numbers here to show the impact of that MBTA Communities Act on our operation. And is the expense going to be recurring? We try not to use one-time funds, one-time revenues to support an ongoing expense. We want to make sure those sort of align over time. When it all gets put together, we requested a 3.72% increase, $2.2 million increase over last year's budget. All of that increase was in our salary area. Big change that drove the numbers of operating, where you see that going down, was our out-of-district tuition numbers. We have a number of students aging out, moving, coming back to Tewksbury schools, a bunch of different scenarios there. And at the end of the day, when we ran through that with our special ed folks, our tuition number was about $500,000 lower than we budgeted for FY26. So that was pretty good news on that front, and that drove most of that decrease. The other part that went into that was our desire to move folks from contracted services, which would be an operating expense, into salaried employees, which would be move it up to that salary line. So as that process happens, the operating numbers get lower, salary numbers increase. When you add in our fixed costs and debt, it works out to a 3.44% increase. You see our health insurance number, highlighted here in blue italics, has gone up a little under $1 million. And you notice that overall change is 9.35%. The town projects this as on an individual basis. They know our employee membership in the health and dental programs. So a lot of our employees may be moving on to the MedX program, which is a less expensive product, but that's all factored in. So there's sort of two sides to that equation. It's not just a straight 13 or 15% increase. And I made sure that the town was okay with that number, and because I know they said we were looking at a 13 to 15% increase, but when I saw how they went about calculating that, I think we're good with the number that they gave us. So next year, I know we're typically 70% of our budget is salary. Next year, it actually calculated a little bit higher than that, 72.4% of our school budget. And this table sort of breaks down by category the FTE and the percent of our salary budget that's attributable to each of those groups, and sort of same information in a pie chart. If you like pie charts, you can see that most of our salary dollars are spent on teachers, which is not unexpected, and that's where sort of the rubber hits the road for our district. In the operating area, this year we're at 27.2% of the school budget. Breaks down a little more evenly from a percentage point of view. The largest areas in operating are transportation and tuition, as you can see here, but these other areas all are kind of equal contributors to our operating costs. This is our capital outlay budget, just a single line. Historically, we were up around 750, so this area from FY23 to FY25. We lowered that last year as our budget needed some funding in our salary and operating areas. So we lowered that number down to 250, which is the amount we historically reserve for textbook or device replacements and upgrades. Again, future capital projects on buildings will require funding via town meeting warrant articles. So we typically have a list of our projected and prioritized needs. I want to hold off on that until we get that facility assessment in hand and have been able to go over that with our with the contractor that's working on that project for the TSFSC before we go forward with producing any lists of what we want to get done at our buildings. So we kind of left this as a coming attraction, and we should have that report within the next few weeks, I believe, at least a preliminary report, and we can start thinking about adding some actual projects to this area. These are some projects we've completed over the past few years. Went back to 22-23 when our capital outlay budget was a little healthier than it is today. You can see we had a lot more work done in those years than we were able to accomplish in the past few years. But we'll see how that lands in for next year, 26-27. Next area we look at our grants and our revolving accounts. We have 41 separate funds currently active in our financial system. We reduced that from 49 last year. We have 9 grant accounts that are active. By active, I mean we've received money or spent money in the last 3 years. I counted those as active accounts. And we have 32 revolving accounts. All of these accounts have a specific purpose and must be used appropriately. Must be used on a expense that's related to the purpose of the fund. I usually give the example of we can't use parking fees from the high school to buy textbooks for a second grade class. It has to be related to the purpose of the fee. So parking fees we can use for landscaping or snow removal or things like that that are related to the parking lot. One year we did we repainted lines. Things of that nature are okay to spend, but they have to be related to the purpose of the revolving fund. We fund approximately 34 full-time positions through grants and revolving accounts, and many hourly, part-time, or overtime hours also paid via revolving accounts, athletic revolving. We pay our ticket takers, scorekeepers, things like that. A lot of times out of those funds that we collect. So our grant funding, this is what's available in FY26. We still have some carryover funds available from FY25. Most of these grants that we get from the state are multi-year grants. We're able to, if we don't spend them all in year 1, we can spend them into year 2. So we're still spending down some of these FY25 grants. FY26, the blue grants are our entitlement grants that we get every year. They're based on formulas from the federal government that relate to our student demographics or town demographics. So we don't really have to do anything to get those grants. They just tell us what our amount is each year. The grants shown here in black are the competitive grants that we have to apply for and are in competition with other districts to get that funding. Based on the letter we got from the Department of Ed, we're not going to be eligible for those types of grants because of the MBTA Communities Act and the town being out of compliance with that. So grants of this type, we only had gotten one prior to that decision, and we don't expect to get further competitive grants or be eligible for further competitive grants throughout FY26. The FY27 grant numbers, we don't have specific numbers. They're usually about the same year over year. We anticipate, so I just carried down the numbers we had from FY26 into FY27 as to what we'll have projected available to us in those entitlement grants. We've been told by the state that the only grants that would be impacted by that MBTA Act would be the competitive grants and the entitlement grants. The ones in blue were not impacted by that act. Just thought this is the portal that we apply for grants and make amendments to grants and use this to get our funding. These are all the competitive funding applications we applied for last year, FY25. Some we didn't get. I highlighted those in red. But these other ones that say budget approved, those are grants that we did receive. And this is what our FY26 all approved applications screen looks like this year. It's, as you can see, much shorter because of that impact on schools, which we're not expecting. So these are our revolving funds that I'm showing the carry forward cash balance from FY26, 25, 24. Some of these run negative for a time. That's typically due to the timing of our expenses versus receipts. School rec custodians here. This is one that's just a pass-through for our custodians who work overtime on weekends to help support boys and girls rec basketball. We pay those. They get a bill at the end of their season, March and April. Cut us a big check, and that account will become zero balance or thereabouts at the end of the year. The accounts in red are our more significant revolving accounts, school lunch and circuit breaker. So I have a separate slide sort of explaining those in more depth. The circuit breaker program is the Commonwealth Special Education Reimbursement Program. Provides financial assistance to public schools to offset the cost of delivering high-cost special education services to students. So this example kind of shows how the program works. If this student's education tuition was $146 and they receive services of $30,000, their reimbursable educational expense would be $176 in this case. Transportation also is reimbursable via circuit breaker. I put in just round numbers, 50,000. There's a threshold that's set by DESE, which is the average cost to educate a special education student in the state, and that's expected to be absorbed by the town. So that number this year is $53,431. So this is the difference between what we expended, what the state expects us to cover, and that becomes our gross educational claim. In this scenario, the transportation all becomes reimbursable because we used up the whole threshold on tuition. The reimbursement rate for both educational costs and transportation costs, if it's fully funded, if the program itself is fully funded, is 75%. So the net claim we would receive for this student in year 2 would be $92,000 for education, $37,500 for transportation, or $129,802 total. So in summary, we would spend $226,000 in year 1, we get back $129,802 via the claim in year 2, and the schools essentially pay $96,000 for this student A in our example. Over here, we have a 5-year history of our end-of-year cash balance in the circuit breaker fund and what our net claim was each year. Last year, they initially reimbursed transportation at 44% based on the state budget at the time. We applied for extraordinary relief last year and got an extra little over $500,000 during the course of the year. And then we got a retro payment in July to help this transportation figure get closer to the 75%. State had extra money at the end of the year, reimbursed towns that were sort of slighted by this 44% and not the 75%. So in all, last year we got about a $5 million reimbursement through circuit breaker. This year our regular claim is $6.2 million from the circuit breaker program. So you can see it's grown quite significantly in these several years. Costs have gone up quite a bit. So it's sort of the ultimate bad news one year, good news the next scenario. When you have a lot of expenses in year 1, you get a lot of money back in year 2. This is how our this year program has run since July 1st of this year. Vendors are typically tuition payments, or some transportation is in here as well. And then the positive numbers are we get quarterly reimbursement from the state. So we've received 2 of those so far this year. Projecting this to the end of the year, the other 2 large payments and what we have encumbered for tuition that we haven't paid yet is about a little under $2.5 million. So we expect to finish the year with a positive balance in that account of around $1 million. We'll carry that into next year. The projected claim for next year, 6.6, based on the students we're paying for this year. We've budgeted 4.8 in tuition that we know we're going to allocate to this fund. So coming out of next year, we have a $2.8 million, I guess, cushion, if you will, but that can change very quickly with students, if students are moving in that have needs to go to different schools or higher needs within our schools themselves. Food services is our other big revolving account. This is a 5-year history of the cash balance in food services. It's grown quite a bit in the past few years. These are our revenues and expenses year over year, just kind of lumped together. This is everything: supplies, food, salaries, everything in our expense area. And this just shows the employees that we cover with food service revenues. Revenues are really taken off since the free breakfast and lunch programs, which are increasing participation across all of our schools. And beginning in last year, in FY26, we've assessed the cost of their employee benefits to this program as well, which we did with all federal programs, and we'll continue that into FY27. That's been helping us offset some of those increases we see in health insurance costs. So this is what our budget will look like at town meeting, if town meeting were held today. These numbers are likely to change a bit from where they are here. And looks like my program is stuck, but here we go. All right, so next steps, continued discussions with building principals, department leaders, elected officials, town officials, teachers and parents to refine and react to our ever-changing needs. So as I said, things happen. We get more money, we get less money, need more money, need less money. Things are constantly changing. This process will go on from now through May town meeting. In May, in fact, is likely to produce some movement within our overall budget, represented by these arrows, where we may have to move some money out of operating into salaries, out of salaries into operating, wherever we see an opportunity or a need, but feel comfortable that we can operate effectively and a quality educational program for the bottom line of $82,051,493. So the detail behind all these figures is available, will be available tomorrow morning. I'll post on our website. We have these broken down by cost centers. I think those are in your package now in paper form, but I'll have these up online tomorrow morning. Details at the account level view by cost center, a summary by cost center, as well as summary by DESI function code. This is sort of a nice way to look at the budget as well. These function codes are defined in this document here, so you can see what type of account, what type of expenses fall under each function code category. And this just provides the same information, sort of packaged a different way to look at it in a different way if you so choose. And that is the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any questions or comments from the committee at this time.
Mr. Libby, and you're welcome to join us back at the table for a casual conversation if you'd like. As usual, that was outstanding amount of information. Thank you. Is anybody who'd like to start first? Mr. Cutlass, are you interested in starting?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Libby, for that presentation. I just have two questions. Do we still have that $750,000 special ed fund?
We do. Yes, that's in the revolving account slide. At the very bottom, there's it's 725, I believe, in special ed reserve funds that we have not had to touch so far. It was allocated at town meeting in 2016, and that's available for us in the event of an emergency, I guess, when the statute says, I believe, the town article it's incumbent on us to go through all of our other resources. So we would have to drain all of our accounts, all of our circuit breaker money, any grants and revolving accounts we could use, and show that we're kind of in a crisis situation, and then access that money with the approval of the school committee and the Board of Selectmen.
All right, thank you. The second, when a teacher retires, are we replacing that one-to-one I get 5 at the high school retired, we put slotting in for 5 new ones.
Generally, yes. It depends on the area. Sometimes those resignations or retirements offer an opportunity for us to think about how we program a school or a program. And sometimes we reallocate those positions in those cases, but generally it's a one-to-one replacement. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to add to that too. And through you, Madam Chair, Mr. Cutlass, some of the things we look at when, and this is a very, very lengthy process, and I commend Mr. Libby, and I was saving that comment for after, the level of detail and the pennies and the dollars we look at in developing this budget takes into account two things: right-sizing the staff at all school levels and where that balance can occur. If one retirement can create an additional position, maybe that's needed at early childhood, we sometimes look at it like that. What we also do is start to delete all of those longevity amounts, because those 1,000 here, 3,000 there really start to add up too, so that perhaps when we need additional staffing, we're able to, leverage that savings. But, what is different today that we saw in the past is we typically could hope for a reduced salary if we have, say, a 30-year teacher at whatever that is, say it's 100,000, that we're going to be inviting in a new teacher at a lower salary. We've seen that trend change, where we're bringing in, we're always looking for the best educator, but for many of the positions that we're looking for, they're 20-year veterans or 10-year veterans. So while we save in longevity, we may not be saving in salary. So I don't know if that helped answer your question, Mr. Cutlass, but it's not only a one-to-one, it's where can we pull out of and how can we use and leverage that funding. And sometimes where we expected to save money on new hires, that's not always occurring.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, Mr. Libby and Mr. Superintendent. Thank you, Mrs. Garrity, and I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Feel free to come back in if you have another question. Mr. Moncada?
Sure. Well, thanks, Mr. Libby. Just a few things with regards to transportation. We're out to bid currently then?
I have not gone out yet. It's on the very short list to do.
Okay.
Yeah, but we will be getting out publicly within the next 2 weeks, I would say.
And the current contracts are up, you said this year, so that means at the end of the year?
End of June, yeah.
Oh, end of school year?
Yes.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Clarification, I think that there is language within our out-of-district transportation company if we choose to renegotiate Dave, please help me with the language.
Yeah,
Extend.
We have an
with-
extension at our option
if we choose that's the right way to go there.
for the next 2 years.
With the current
With the out-of-district.
out of
Yeah,
district?
and we're partners with Chelmsford and Billerica
Right,
on that
with other
contract.
towns. Yep.
Right, that's the one we share. So we'll be, I had an initial discussion with those folks in the fall. Initially, we thought, the thinking was to take advantage of those one-year extensions where it's been priced out such a long time ago. I want to touch base with them again and make sure we're still on the same page with that. We have until March to let the contractor know if we want to extend those one-year options.
Okay.
So at that time, that was the thinking. I'm not sure if my colleague in Billerica was new on the job. I don't know if she has had any change of heart since then. And I know Chelmsford has had a couple issues crop up that may change their mind as well.
Okay. And transportation services in this document, that includes both in and out of district?
Yeah.
That number? Because it looks like you had this number go up 6%, I think is what, you're estimating it to go up 6%?
Yeah.
And-
Don't forget, we have a number of students decreasing through aging out
Right.
during this school year or into next school year. So every student counts, in particularly those out-of-district areas.
Okay. Okay. Also, with regard to capital projects, so you say, or so big ones, sure, they're going to go on they're going to go to the town. But these little ones that you have on here for the things that we've done in the past, those will also have to go through the town, or is there a dollar, or is there an amount that we're going to be able to just handle those?
Yeah, I think it kind of will depend on what our needs are in technology, textbooks. We want to make sure we have those recurring costs kind of covered before we try to tackle any building projects with that money. I think a building project that people can see and have the long term is an easier sell at a town meeting, a warrant article for a one-time expense out of, usually it's I forget if it's free cash or the remaining money at the end of the year when we close out the books. I always forget if that's free cash or what's the other term for the town money.
Stabilization?
The stabilization, yeah. Those are sort of designed and earmarked for that type of expense. So sometimes I think that's an easier sell, if you will, at town meeting.
With that, just remember as part of our district strategic plan, so remembering that the budget is always, to the best of our ability, aligned to all of those goals and priorities. Internal safety and security audits, as well as the external Homeland Security safety and security audit. From those audits, we'll prioritize some of the less expensive. We're already assuming we're going to see one of those suggestions from the audits hit a town warrant article. So, and we'll reserve that list until we complete it, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
But those from higher priority to lesser expensive will be our priority in seeing what we can garner through town meeting for those building improvements that are immediate.
I guess my concern is that if we need something after April, we're now not able to do anything until October? Is that how that would work?
Well,
I mean, like, again, I understand big things, but
Yeah.
just, we had, whatever, I don't know what it
Sure.
is, something small. Okay,
Small, like routine maintenance, like we have contracts with plumbers, electricians,
Yeah,
roofers. So when things break, we can obviously
gonna
get
have to
them
act
fixed
on
and those types of things.
and
Things
we have
like,
the 250,000. And while that was usually earmarked for all things textbooks, because there's a cycle there, and every six-ish or so many years, we're looking at a $500,000 to $1 million now, curriculum upgrade in the core areas. Projecting for that, we certainly want to reserve as much of our curriculum textbook funds, thinking forward in the next 2 to 3 years. But we have that that money, in the capital fund if we have to.
Yeah.
Pull from it, we do.
okay. Yeah, and I don't know what would pop up. I'm just curious, is there going to be, like I said,
Yeah.
after May, with the Maytown meeting,
Sure.
we
And
have
look,
to
we
wait
just,
several months for something else to happen, but I guess if we have the funds, or if we can,
and for some of, it kind of depends on where or what the need is. There could be a revolving account that would be appropriate. If we can tie it to, if it's in a cafeteria, we could use food services, the revolving funds from that. If it's in a gym or an auditorium, maybe rentals or the rec fee that we charge. So, sometimes there are other funding sources available for us to tap into for some of those projects, if they're appropriate.
okay. And the last thing I had written down was obviously, the obvious thing for me that's a big bummer is the loss of the grants, because the MBTA. Are we asked, so I think well, there's a handful of towns, 12 towns maybe that are out of compliance. Drake and Wilmington are the close. It took, yeah, Drake
Six
and Wilmington were the
now, or
closest.
7.
Oh, there's not as many, okay.
No.
But Drake and Wilmington are the closest. Are we in
are.
contact with, are they being penalized like we're being penalized?
are,
We've
and,
confirmed that?
Yeah, and I can just, without offering a lot of solutions right now, we have been in contact with our state legislators. Representative Robinson is working with, obviously, Wilmington and Drake to try to pull together a joint meeting for us to just see. I mean, we had a wonderful conversation as well with some other state, I don't want to say representatives as legislators, but representatives of state departments, just asking, how do we keep this ball moving?
Yeah.
Because, you know, clearly the residents of Tewksbury voted that this is how they wanted to address the MBTA Compliance Act, and that is the will of the town. But I do think it's important that we keep asking, can we see how that MBTA Act we can go back to the terms and conditions that we all believed would be impacted by that vote, and look at hopefully preserving some educational grant dollars differently. So we don't have any solutions or good answers right now, but there are people who are asking the questions for us on our behalf, and we're going to continue the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, again, it's unfortunate. Massachusetts is such a great state for education. We all know that.
Yeah.
For us to be penalized, for the education system to be penalized, and it's almost like they moved the goalpost kind of a thing, the goal line, and they changed the rules. So whatever we can do, it seems like there are things being done, but I know we're kind of just.
We'll certainly bring you any new answers as we receive them, and we'll keep pounding the pavement with the people that can help us find them.
Yeah, very good. All right, I'm all set then. Thank you.
And Chris, I'm certainly willing to reach out on behalf of the committee to the other school committees in those towns, if you'd like, to see if the committee would be interested in drafting a letter. I know something that we can send to our own legislative representatives, and then perhaps they would also send to their own, and something that could go to the Department of Education on behalf of all of us, in asking that they reevaluate how students are being impacted by some of these decisions that they're making, because high school students who are seeking opportunities in their education, I'm not sure how that ties into some of these decisions that,
Right.
that towns are making. So, I mean, if that's something that everybody's interested
Yeah,
in.
I'm certainly in favor of us raising, our voices on that. It could be just, spitting into the wind kind of a thing. Nothing's going to happen with it, but I think we should at least do it.
So between now and our February 9th meeting, I'll work on that and try to bring it to our February 9th meeting.
Yeah.
Can I piggyback on that question too, the topic? So are we absorbing the costs of some of these grants that we're not getting to keep programs, specifically the literacy grant, and then the other, early college prep? Is that impacting our career pathways, or any of those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sure has. I mean, we've already absorbed some costs associated because we were certainly caught off guard, right, that this would be the result of that vote. We've absorbed costs. Last year, for example, and you'll see, I think in our February meeting, our plans for summer school, again, some updates on that. We had those grant dollars we expected, and then those we did not have those. So we absorbed that. We can't do that again. But yes, we will continue to make every available opportunity to our students a reality, but the funding for any additional staffing, networking, the partnerships with the colleges, the different things that some of those grant dollars brought us, we just can't absorb those costs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So another question I have, I know that the governor released the preliminary budget, I think today, too. Do you think that anything within that budget chapter 70, any of the costs are gonna impact your projections here?
Everything I saw leading up to today, I was kind of busy today, but
I think it came out like late to midday.
yeah. But everything I saw initially in the proposal was very favorable to education. There was fully funded circuit breaker money was there. The Chapter 70 money saw the typical increase we see as a hold harmless community. What's that? 3%? Yeah. We usually get a minimal amount because of our student population. But that was in the initial reports I saw was due to be the same as usual. So I don't think we'll see anything significant to impact our numbers here.
And my last question is around the phasing of the contracted.
Yep.
Is there a projected timeline for that? I know that it's we need to provide the services that we need to students, but is there a cost savings or a benefit to moving that
Well,
faster or anything like that?
It was sort of a twofold process. We were trying to reduce the overall number of bodies. We couldn't do a one-for-one trade out, but the principals generally, from their end, they see typically, and this isn't the case for everybody, but typically better attendance, better production out of the employees. I don't know if it's, just better, sense of community.
Permanency, maybe, a full-time, a different type of a commitment. Yep.
Than they'd see from many of the contracted folks. So that was their interest in converting. And then,
Contracted person is rely on a substitute at a different rate.
Yeah, and I'm going to I have to throw this out there. Many of our contracted ESPs, aides, are now town aides because they just did a stellar job, and they, when they applied for those positions, they were first in. So we've benefited too from some amazing employees through the contracted service.
yeah, when we started, there was 60 or so, 65 contracted folks. My mad scientist numbers scheme was if we reduced 20 a year and added 10 employees per year, could we get to where we could operate all the programs we need to operate effectively? And we're kind of going through those exercises with the principals. Last year, it requires everyone to get into a room, name names, look at IEPs,
Yeah.
look at students who are going from one school to the next, and
Look
what's
it
in their
over.
IEP, and it get pretty complicated. But it was a good exercise last year when we did it, and I think we'll be doing that again
Yeah.
this spring as we get closer to knowing more about the students and where their path will take them next year. So that exercise will likely play out with some changes to how the staffing flows, and the whole goal is to reduce as much as possible the use of the contracted folks. Maybe end of
It's by the end of the month in March, we will complete that again. But you asked on timeline. Ultimately, the goal was through the life of this current contract that we would be able to, solve that request, that we reduce completely the contracted service aides, and those positions would transfer into town positions.
Okay.
And not all of them, but obviously the service to town.
Okay, I'm all set. Thank you.
And I think I'll reserve my questions for our next budget conversation. We have a couple more coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Any comments?
I absolutely, again, I know often people will refer to this as Dave's budget. And I think it's always important, and Dave reminds every one of us, this is our budget. This is our Tewksbury Public Schools budget. And the process is tedious and lengthy, right? You've heard it a million times. You saw it in Dave's ongoing process. It's not over because he presented the first workshop. We'll meet again. We meet with every, in under ed reform, we're required to meet with all of the directors and school principals because they are in charge of their own school budgets. But as it applies to our strategic plan, right-sizing staff, service needs, and all of the rising costs that they have no control over, we need to meet and coordinate that. And with that, we realize that this type of presentation is not everyone's cup of tea. And while we always publish all the workshop documents and everything on the district website, it's not fully transparent or digestible for everyone in the community. So I'm going to ask Dave to go over to his computer again, because in our strategic plan and our improved communications, one of the things we're trying to do is, again, just more digestible information about our budget process to the whole community. So what you're about to see for the first time is one of 4 informational videos on our budget process. Hold on just a second. That illustrate through, a more friendly language and a friendly format this whole process Dave just put together, at least the beginning, how we build the dollar and how we spend it. What we'll do is post this tomorrow, side by side, on all social media sites as well as our webpage with Dave's presentation. So I hope you find it both informational and wonderful as we do. And go ahead, Dave.
Understanding where the money comes from and where it goes is vital to understanding our annual school budget. We'll use a single dollar to show the portion of money that comes in from different sources, then show how it goes out to support our students' growth. The majority of our school district's revenue comes from 2 places. From our town, in the form of our residential and commercial property taxes, about 80 cents of every budget dollar. And from the Commonwealth, in the form of our state income taxes, about 13 cents. The remaining 7 cents of every dollar that comes in are local receipts. The remaining 7 to 8 cents of every dollar that comes in are local receipts. Things like hotel taxes, permits, and services like ambulances. Then we try to supplement our budget with grant money we applied for and won, along with assessing fees for things like the use of our facilities and turnstile at the football game. This money can only be used where it's collected to pay for things like our fields and team uniforms. Combined, this is the budget dollar Tewksbury plans and accounts for in its decisions every year. So where does all the money in our school budget go? We'll slice up the same budget dollar to show you how the money goes out. No matter the district, the overwhelming majority of the school budget is spent on people. Historically, salaries and benefits for our professional educators, support staff, and administrators make up about 70 cents of every dollar in our budget. This year, that number is 72 cents. That typically leaves just 30 cents of every budget dollar to pay for everything else our school district needs. Transportation, 8 cents. Special education services, 3 cents. Facilities, 2 cents. Utilities, 2 cents. And the biggest variable each year, out-of-district tuition, which we're required to pay to ensure every Tewksbury student receives an equitable education. This was 10 cents of every budget dollar last year. That leaves just 5 cents of every budget dollar for everything else, including supplies, supporting our educators' professional development, technology contracts, debt, and reserve funds for unforeseen circumstances. Tewksbury Public Schools demonstrates its values through its budget. Our community is a vital component to this process. To learn more about our budget, visit our website, click on About Us, and navigate to the Business Office section. And we hope you'll join us at Tewksbury Town Meeting on May 4th.
That's the first part, right? How we get the money, how we spend the money, and what we value is what we spend it on. As I said, this is one of 4. This is called a pillar. There'll be 4 pillars to the budget process that can be watched individually, but obviously connect. Of our next pillars, there are budget areas of focus, and pillar 3 cost drivers, and budget 4, the final numbers for town meeting. So we'll continue to leave these on our website and through social media, and hopefully better inform our community as to how this budget process works.
Great.
Cool.
Any comments? No, that's great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I appreciate the community getting more information. I think it's important, and it's a great thing to do, I think, when things are not in a contentious time.
Sure.
So, you know, so I like it. Any comments from you, Mr. Cutlass? Are you good?
I'm all set, Madam Chair, thank you.
Okay, great. And thank you, Mr. Libby. Okay. Think we're good?
Yeah,
I make a motion, oh, sorry. Motion to close, to adjourn.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn in a second. At this time, I don't know if anybody's caught up, but we have canceled our executive session. So at this time, we are all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that passes. So 5:45, we adjourn. So that closes this meeting completely. We will have a short break, say 5 minutes, and then, is 5 minutes enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll come back, and we'll be a little bit late, but that is what it is. The budget took some time. And we'll come back to our regular business meeting at, let's say 5:55. 10 minutes. Thank you. All right, welcome to the January 28th, 2026 regular school committee meeting, scheduled for 5:30, but we had our budget workshop ahead of time, and we ran late into this one, so this has pushed us back a little further. So thank you for joining us, and if you could all join us, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since we're in an empty room and nobody's joining us here today, I'm going to forego the announcement. And in terms of our one agenda item really is the new superintendent search timeline. So just to kind of recap a little bit, what brings us here is that we met on the 10th. We discussed an early timeline to gather stakeholder feedback. The feedback was intended to assist us and inform us as we search for replacement of our superintendent. Brenda Terry-O'Regan will be retiring at the conclusion of the school year. We shared a survey to families, staff, and municipal leaders who interact with the superintendent regularly. We held listening sessions with labor leaders of our union and non-union leaders of our district, and with the public. The data was collected. It was placed objectively in the role of a superintendent rubric for your review. So rather than just going through a bunch of numbers, we took very targeted questions that pertain to the specific job and role and responsibilities of the superintendent. We were able to get some objective data from that, and then align that to say kind of where some of our stakeholders found priority. There's a really small window of difference, I think, in terms of where people saw their priorities shift, but you can see where some highs and lows were. We can discuss that in a minute. We also received some information from the TTA where they had collected some of their own data. We can discuss that if you want, but that's also there, that was gathered information that was given to the committee for reference. This information is intended, all of it together, to ultimately, with our input, today's information is a draft, rather. And so then with our input that we add today, I will go back and add that in, and then that will finalize our vision of a leader, of what we think should build a leadership profile for what we think we're looking for in the next superintendent. And that might inform us now for things like with a job posting, questions as needed, just kind of getting us all aligned in a better understanding what we're looking for, and also informing the community for also what we're looking for as well. So that was kind of the whole purpose of the exercise. So that brings us to the document. If anybody wants to kind of chime in on that and open it up for discussion.
If we haven't already, did we, or will we make this information available, or did we give this information to the union leaders that came to our meeting?
This information was gathered for our purposes.
Okay, and
It's to inform us.
okay, it's not
So-
necessarily shared.
If somebody's interested in it, but
Okay,
I mean, it'll put together our leadership profile and what we're looking for. And so certainly anybody who's interested in it, if they want to reach out to me
okay,
or to Mrs. Caliendo,
Yeah.
we can share, the feedback we received and, why we're building the profile that we are.
I just know that we were asked at the meeting that we attended that the rate we did the information,
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
they didn't really felt like they were able to absorb it, so that's all. I just, I didn't think it was proprietary so much, so.
No, it's not proprietary. So are they looking for just the information that was shared in
I think they wanted to see what other people were saying in the room.
their session?
Yeah, and I think they wanted to know what, we had those word clouds,
Yeah.
I think that, they really wanted
Yeah.
to just see like what other people in the room were saying, so. That's all. That's just
yeah.
a general comment about the info, so.
Sure, yeah. So, for disclosure, we use Mentimeter is a tool that we used and utilized so people could use an app on their phone They scanned a QR code, a question was asked, and then as people answered the question, all of the answers went up on the screens at the same time. So depending upon the pace of the questions, yeah, it was hard to take it all in. So, yeah.
And just for
get those.
clarification for the public or whoever's listening, we had 2 sessions. One that you both led, that was attended by staff, various staff
Union
representation.
union and non,
And we held one open to the public where we had 1 person
yeah,
show up.
yes.
So, I think those kind of speak for themselves as we've gone through some of these listening sessions with the public. I think the public tends to provide their feedback more in electronic format, just for ease of providing it and so forth. And maybe sharing the summative of that and the ratings would be helpful, but or just the word clouds, some sort. But yeah, I think we got a lot of information. I think it's very helpful that we can pull from what we took in from those listening sessions. We attended one with TTA leadership and the ones that you attended as well, and use it as we kind of move forward in this profile, Bridget, as you mentioned. I guess I think from reading all of it, it seems that the community has consistent responses on what they're looking for. And I say community as a whole, as everything came together, where they're feeling strongly, and such. So I think we got a great amount of information. I think it gives us a really good idea of which direction we should go in, or myself at least, which direction I would like to go in, based on the feedback and the responses that I read. So, yeah, curious what
I think to add to that too, we also met with the district leadership team to get some feedback, from, principals, department heads, principals, administrators, and the like. So we met with them, and then we also met with the TTA leadership as well, to just get some of their kind of candid feedback as well as their written. So, and some other stakeholders. So, yeah, I think, in the 2-week time to just get this feedback, I think we got a decent, number of responses and kind of, spread the net. We also got some feedback from municipal, safety and security people that work with the superintendent on the regular, in terms of, different initiatives, lots of different things that they've worked on over the years. So I think that was helpful as well. So, it's tricky to compile some of that, I think, but I think for me, keeping it aligned and streamlined to the standards of what the roles and responsibilities are for the superintendent makes the most sense, or made the most sense, and I think it's been consistent from the way we asked our questions to the feedback we got to as we look forward to understanding what we're looking for in a leader and what their job responsibilities truly are. So, so that's the data. We're kind of covered on that. Anything you wanted to add there, Mr. Cutlass?
No, I'll send that to
Okay. So I think it's important that we go through this a little bit and talk about the standards and just discuss for ourselves what we're looking for as well, because now I think we've heard from the public, but I think there's some things that are missing that we didn't hear from the public on. And I say the public, you say the community, it's kind of the same thing. But I definitely think that there's some blind spots, and I think there are certainly things that I'm concerned about that I want to make sure that is kind of reflected in this as we go forward. So you may all feel the same way. So is there anybody who would like to start by maybe starting with standard 1 with instructional leadership? I can give you an example of kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I think.
So, like, for me,
approaching this slightly different.
I think in terms of specific to Tewksbury, not any different than Massachusetts, as we talk about the changes that we're looking at with graduation requirements, the changes that have happened with MCAS, and we're moving forward in how the district is going to be tackling that. We know that the Department of Education is going to be coming down with whatever their recommendations are. In terms of a leader, I would like to see somebody who is up to date with not only where Department of Education is on, but is kind of ahead of the curve with where the standards are, ahead of the curve with kind of the research and understanding what students need, what do our students need, where are the blind spots in our curriculum, what would benefit our students the most in terms of graduation, and prepare them the best as they leave Tewksbury to go off to college, job force, wherever they're headed. So that's a priority of mine. And then also thinking about MCAS has always been utilized in Tewksbury as a marker for data. It's always been used for being able to measure us against other districts. But as we move towards more performance-based testing and trying to tackle some of that, what does that look like for Tewksbury? So I'd like to see a leader that is a visionary in planning that and can support our district as we move forward there. So that's one example. My number 2 in instructional leadership is all things Fed. Everything from the audit results, the responsibility to see through the implementation of all the changes that might be needed, and to supporting the staff, supporting families, supporting students, and assuring that that process is just done well, done right. I guess that covers it all. I could go on, but that's, you know what I mean. We all do this together. Anything else for instructional leadership?
No, I agree with you. I think we need somebody who's not only going to look at, new DESE requirements or educational requirements as they come down, but also look at educational trends outside of the district and bringing those visions into the district. I think is important as well. But 100% agree with you on special education, making sure that they have that as a top priority, and continuing the work that we've done from the audit, and making sure that we're continuing to develop what those findings are and coming up with the solutions to address them.
Anything for you, Mr. Malcara?
Nothing that stands out, nothing that I think that you haven't necessarily already mentioned. We just had those MCAS, we just had talked about MCAS not that long ago. And, the line wasn't going up. It hasn't really been going up. But I think there were some things that we talked about that we need to build upon that meeting. And I know we're headed that way. But anyway, yes, so certainly somebody who's paying attention to that.
Okay.
So.
Anything for you, Mr. Cutlass? I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, just a strong, confident leader that will, make sure we have a robust curriculum. And also, I think, be able to measure us against other districts. I know MCAS is one way to do that. A lot of people don't like it, but does give you an indication of how we're doing. So I would like to, still leave it puts a little faith in that measurement, because I don't know how else we can measure our progress in each other districts and those tests. But that's what I'm interested in.
Thank you. Anything for you?
No, I think you guys got rid of that one.
Okay.
That comes in the next one.
Okay. Management and operations. This would cover facilities, the future of Tewksbury High School. Some of the things that management operations would be the superintendent's responsible for the efficient and effective operation of the district to ensure a safe and productive environment. That would include environment and safety, human resources, fiscal systems. So anything there?
Yeah, I think something that we didn't hear a lot from and didn't really come up is their ability, their comfort level when it comes to managing the budget. I know that we obviously have a business manager who helps develop it, but if anyone goes back and watches the last hour and 15 minutes, it's a collaborative approach, and there's a lot that the superintendent would need to be able to contribute knowledge-wise, fiscal knowledge, internal knowledge about what where we're I guess where we may have gaps, trying to figure that out. So a strong familiarity with the budget process was a big one for me. I think our fiscal responsibility is one of my top priorities, especially in the environment right now we're in. A fiscal responsibility focused individual is really something that is one of my key priorities right now.
I think along with that too is we're gonna have a new business manager at some point. So, to have them also be proficient or more than the business manager themselves certainly would be a great.
Managing staffing, incoming staff,
Yeah,
business
that
manager.
would be a great asset. Great skill.
Several other positions too, right? So.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important, especially with some of the budget issues that we're facing, is that they can demonstrate creative ways that they've been able to manage through certain budget deficiencies and still remain or still have the programs that we have remain, even though we're going to see some of those struggles coming with the loss of certain grants. Would like to see somebody with some experience in managing through those types of situations.
Okay. All right. I think for me, the first thing that had come to my mind was the work that the Tewksbury School Facility Study Committee has started is going to need to be followed through. I don't know really where this is going to end up, but I think when the consultants are done vetting all of these buildings, they're going to come back to the committee, come back to the select board, come back to the town of Tewksbury with some recommendations and just with some data and some information. And so what are we going to do with that data? And I would like a leader who is ready to take that on. So that's big. And I think the conversations that have started with regard to the grades, and is there potential for or a possibility that there should be some reallocation or realignment. I would like somebody who has a really strong understanding of going back to the teaching and learning, that's number one for them, and that the students are first, so that the community is important to them as much as the community is important to us, but they understand the students better than we do, and what their educational needs are, because that's what we need for them to be able to do for us. So that was on my radar. Anything for you, Mr. Cutlass?
Well, yes, Madam Chair, I'm a little disappointed with our facility subcommittee in the way we're proceeding, but I would like the leader to have an open mind about where to go with that. And also take into consideration, obviously, we want the best facilities that will be able to deliver the program in the most efficient way, but there's a lot of different ways we can do that. We have to be cost efficient. So I want a new candidate to really have an open mind about where we're going with that.
Right.
That's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep. Good perspective. Okay. And number 3, family and community engagement. And that's a little blurb on that. Critical part of the role involves being partnerships with families and the community to support student success. So, any thoughts on family and community engagement? To add.
I think the responses that were provided are sufficient in what I would want as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
I think I was surprised at how it fell in the ranking, to be honest, but given the conversations we've had with the community in the past, but I think the topics that were raised and the expectations that are presented are things that we've already been talking about, and I think we're looking for a good communicator, the ability to collaborate and so forth. I think all those were key attributes, and they're covered in the profile.
I
Personally.
agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Did you agree, Mr. Cutlass?
Could you repeat that, Madam Chair? Yeah.
So I think Mrs. Biagioni Smith has a cold, so I think she's
I'm sorry, I sound
soft
like-
spoken.
Yeah.
But I think her general sentiment was that the overall thoughts were conveyed through the survey results pretty well, that she had nothing more to add.
Oh, okay, all right. No, I would like to see more robust acts in school councils. I don't know what the current involvement is now for the parents. I think it's low, but in the past, it used to be much higher, and there was much greater involvement. And I don't know if we can beef those up or not, the new superintendent can emphasize that. But I would just like to see as much parental involvement in our schools as we can. I think that's where you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
They, on this, I guess this document, it was rated low for collaboration with town government, local groups, but I kind of feel like that's an important one. It should be more important just because, again, going along with the budget, you know, we have to play nice. So and that person is the face. That person is the person who's directly in contact with, you know, so.
Local leaders, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, because when I saw that there was kind of more of a lower score for that collaboration with town government and local groups, I wondered if that spoke a little bit to maybe some people answering this, not understanding truly maybe the role of the superintendent, and that how important that is for the superintendent to be very collaborative with, you know, town government and local groups, because really that it is so important, you know, for the safety of our schools and security and things like that too.
And for our budget too. They're the one. The superintendent's the one who has to go and present the budget and get the buy-in from our officials to move forward with it. So.
Right. So yeah, the superintendent's their finance committee, and with the business manager pretty regularly. So. Okay. Standard 4 is professional culture, and a little blurb is the superintendent promotes a culture of high expectation and continuous learning, and there's a few different ways with the shared vision, managing conflict, ethical behavior, and any thoughts there?
I think there probably could be some person who takes this position. This is obviously a important area. I think to go with the status quo, I think going forward, it might not be something we want them to do. There has to be, I think, some changes made. I'm not gonna get into what they all may be. There's a little give and take between them and people that work for her or him, whoever it may be. I don't know. This one didn't rate the highest, but it's one of the highest, right? So, and with the size of the staff and people that would work for them, I would hope they would lean into it a little bit. I don't think wholesale changes are necessary. Chip away at it, so to speak.
Okay. Mrs. Anderson, anything for you?
I don't know if this is where this cleanly fits into, but I'm gonna say it here. We need to look for somebody who understands Tewksbury's needs, not just the needs of a school district or the needs of what a superintendent is supposed to do. It's what's the uniqueness of Tewksbury and what do we need from a district leader? Not necessarily what a superintendent is supposed to look like overall. It's what does it look like for us? And, having them come in with some knowledge of what, where Tewksbury has been, where we're looking to go in the future, what the needs of our students are versus just, the needs of other towns. It'd be good to have somebody who has some knowledge of that.
I agree with what was said.
Anything to add?
I don't think so. I think everything is covered.
Mr. Cutlass, anything for you to add there?
Well, I think it's the most important thing of all, the high expectations. In the past, we've had superintendents, I think, that are content with the status quo. You would sugarcoat things, and I don't think that's the way we should be. I think we should drive high expectations, and if we're not achieving, we should really push to achieve. But I think a superintendent that's willing to do that would be a great thing to have. That's
Okay.
all.
So for my notes for myself, I had similar to Katie and similar to Jamie in some ways, and saying that Tewksbury, I think, is an outstanding community. A lot of pride in our schools and in our teachers. Looking at collective bargaining at the end of this year and early next year, that comes to mind for me as well. Hoping that somebody is very interested in being a part of that and, taking a very strong, leadership approach with the committee, with the whole process. So, I look forward to that process starting again. So, I look for a partner in that. So, looking for somebody with fortitude to lead through periods of, when things are hard and there's disruption, and always prioritizing students and prioritizing, the stability of the school community while working towards sustainable and student-centered agreements. I think that's that's what I'm looking for. So that, I don't know if that fits in professional culture either, but that's where it fit for me. And then a little bit of something you already said too, Katie, is networking and building more like a professional capacity outside of Tewksbury, and being able to bring things back to town where, there may be new practices and things like that. And a bit like you're saying, Jamie, too, where, pushing the achievement for everybody, looking at elevating, the quality of education and just hoping to, improve expectations for everyone. So, yeah, all that, it all kind of ties together. I think we're all saying the same thing. Okay, that about covers the standards. The last piece I have there is a bit on the relationship with the school committee, and that is, that seems important, and at least to us. So, I just had a little blurb there. I think we've had this committee's had a good working relationship with the superintendent. Jamie, you can probably speak to the last 10 superintendents, I don't know.
Well, well,
A few.
we all have a good relationship with them, but, you know, I don't care if they do or they don't.
Yeah,
As long as they want to achieve results.
right.
And I'm disappointed that only 50% of our third graders can read at grade level. And that to me is a terrible statistic. And I look at other districts and they're at 75%. And I want us to be up there. And I want a superintendent that's not afraid to say that. And not say, oh, that's good, 50%. That's not good. The third grade level, they should be able to read. And I want a superintendent that will challenge. And if they have to challenge us, they challenge us. If they have to challenge the teachers, they challenge them. But that's what I want to see. But, okay, thank you.
No, that's fair. Okay, so, all right, that's, that, I think we've covered that. We can take all of our feedback, add that to this draft, and come up with something a little more cohesive. Moving forward with now, what does this mean for us, right? In reference to our legal, you know, and what are our options, the school committee has flexibility in determining the process for appointing the next superintendent, including whether to conduct a full search, appoint an interim superintendent, directly appoint an existing administrator, utilize a hybrid internal, external posting approach, and those kind of were the four kind of most commonly seen practices across the state. So regardless of whatever process is selected, the committee must ensure that the compliance with open meeting law happens, which means our decision to conduct a full search or any type of search or not using a search, to retain a firm, not have a firm, must happen in open meeting. So that's why we're doing this now.
Of those options, are there like a general, not like by us, but is there like a general ranking of which one of those is done, how those are done, and like one more over the other? I'm just curious. Was it, no, it was just, the council just advised, like, these are your options, and.
So I mean, yeah, I didn't ask.
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
ask
fine, I'm
that.
just curious.
I asked what the option, what our options are. So I think I can only speak to, I'll give my personal opinion from talking with other districts, would be that I think a district should do what's right for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to do what's right for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, having done this before, I'm coming into this thinking I want to do what's right for us. So if you were to tell me this is the most common way it's done, I'm still going to want to do what I think is right for us.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know that would sway me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have thought to look at that.
The appointing of a superintendent, is that like as an interim, or we appoint that person and they're the superintendent? Until which time
that's
they're
an
no
option. They're both options. They're all options.
You can appoint an interim, or you can appoint a full term.
Okay.
You could, yeah. So the full search would be, you go with an agency or, you know, or a firm, you know, that sort of thing. And then somebody comes in, we've already done a chunk of the work. All this stuff we've already done is a bunch of the work they would have done. But we kind of get some of the work done to kind of get us to this place to make this decision. And they would then pick up from where we are now and take us through the final stages. And I don't know, I think the MASC has a document that quotes in there 6,500 to 20,000 or something in their document. The appoint seems harder to just do that from the get-go, but there are districts that do it. The posting, that could be done either independently by us through our legal could assist us with that, or you could hire a firm to just help you with the job posting.
And if we, and I'm sorry if anyone else wants to just jump in, feel free. If let's say we ask for resumes, do we have to interview those people? What if we don't like any of the candidates?
So
Is there
if-
an obligation to then invite people in for interviews?
If we choose to seek resumes,
Mhm.
we have to form a search committee.
Mhm.
The search committee would be composed of whatever we determine the search committee needs to be. That wouldn't be just, we look at the resumes and
Okay.
decide we don't want to go further.
But that committee, or the subcommittee, however you want to call them, they review, then they say, these are the ones that we like. And then it would be up to us to say what the next steps would be with those.
We would all vote to appoint one of us,
Mhm.
the chair of the subcommittee.
Yeah,
And so the chair of the subcommittee would be the one looking at those resumes.
got it.
So the other four of us wouldn't know.
Got it. Okay.
And so the names of those resumes would not be public. So they can't be public, so, because they're just candidates.
Yeah.
So we would not, the four of us would not have any knowledge of whether we move forward or not.
Okay.
Until those candidates got vetted through a search committee, and then they came to us.
Okay.
So I guess that's the benefit of having a,
Yeah.
you go with a MASC or a NESDEC or a firm, and
Right.
they do all that work for you,
Right.
or with you, and walk you through that process.
Yeah. Okay.
I have some feedback. After going through a superintendent search 5 years ago, and Jamie, you can probably speak to however many you went through, and in the process that you went through. It was, I'll say, I have an opinion. It was very difficult to look at candidates that were presented to us after the search committee did all their work, and have an internal representation and external representation and try to compare them. My personal opinion for this go is that we separate it and we seek any internal interest first, just to see if there's any internal interest, and then cast a wider net if we need to. It was very difficult to compare two people just because of the process itself and how the interview went. And it was all on, as Bridget said, it's all public. So you can go back and listen to those interviews and see how they went. It was very, very hard to move forward with some of those, just given the way it worked. So my personal opinion, and something that I would be interested in discussing, is moving forward with an internal search first, posting internally to see if we have anybody who's qualified, who's interested, and then if we don't, cast a wider net.
Well, yeah.
And would like to discuss that, if that's okay.
Yeah, or if we go through the internal search and we interview and we're not satisfied, then
Right.
we would go. I agree. I think that's the right approach, for sure. I think you're right when you're trying to balance apples to apples comparisons of somebody internal versus external. It doesn't work. And if we have a good candidate or candidates internally, I think we owe it to them anyways to take a look and see if we think they're the right fit for the district, and then if not, move external.
Yeah, we all work in different capacities
Yep.
in our own personal jobs. From personal experience, I've always seen internal movement. It
Yeah.
builds bench strength, it helps to build tenure and commitment and all of that as you move up through whatever ranks you're moving up through, if that's the path that you're choosing. And if there isn't a person, then you post and seek externally in the capacity that I work. I don't know if it's similar for either or any of you, but
Yeah.
that's typically how I've seen it. And that's what I'm familiar with. And after seeing an external, internal comparison the last time, I just found that really challenging.
Jamie, Mr. Cutlass, do you have any thoughts?
You know, perfect agreement with what Kayla just said. I think, we should go in that direction. I think that's fine. But on these search committees in the past, and, you know, people can look good on paper, but, not great when you interview them. But, I'm perfectly fine with internal candidates. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so, we did, at the very onset of this timeline, ask for, anybody from our school community that was interested in participating in a working group. At the time, this working group, was just we called it a working group because we had no idea what this could look like. It could look like a screening committee, it could look like interview committee, it could look like, I had no idea. So I just wanted to capture people early, that could help us and support us in this process. So if we go in this direction, I have ideas of how I think we could utilize the support of these people who have come forward. I think, how many people, Mrs. Caliendo, did we have? 15?
It's a good size.
And and they represent what? Just parents? Do they? Who?
There is staff in different positions and staff members in one town, in one street.
Because when Dr. Milligan went through the assistant superintendent process, I was part of, I think, when you were there as well, yeah. You were already on the committee, I was just there as a parent at large or whatever, but that group was, there was a teacher, there were multiple teachers, there was staff,
So
there were residents, other parents, sped parents, so, I mean,
the superintendent interview is done in our meeting
yeah.
as an open meeting. And so that would be with us only. But the utilization of this group could be facilitated smaller meetings, similar to like that type of a setup, maybe where we have maybe targeted conversations. Maybe if it's teachers, maybe the conversation's related to teaching and learning. If it's students, maybe we could capture more students and have more conversations about students and student voice and, you know, what's going on with students and what are they looking for from leadership. If it's parents, you know, what are they looking for communication, for the direction in some of the things that parents might be looking for. I don't know. And we could still target other groups outside of the people who have volunteered, but maybe that could also support a more, because I've kind of been thinking in different pathways of how this conversation might go tonight, and maybe how these people who have volunteered could be useful to us. And I just envision that. I think, and again, I, similar to you, referenced this experience we had before, where we had opportunities for the community to come meet candidates that just wasn't, it wasn't a very successful way of vetting candidates. So in my mind, this kind of always was, these people were just gonna somehow support that in a better way than what was done before.
And you're
So-
saying those working group, let's say we have students, the students can meet with us there with the candidates?
One person maybe,
Okay.
you know, but to give the candidate an opportunity, more like meet and greets.
Yep.
But
Yep.
where maybe when you have a meet and greet, nobody shows up. Is kind of really, is what we saw.
Yeah.
You know, you saw maybe 3 people come and it, you know, and so instead of having a meet and greet where you don't have a lot of people
Have been
come,
targeted where we have people signed up to come.
Or you had
So-
people come for one but not another, so how do you gather? It was very tough.
Yep.
How do you go for one and not all 4, whatever we had, 5?
Right.
so these are more kind of people that we know want to be a part of this. They want to help support. They want to give us some feedback. They want to just be a part of this process with us. And I think, you know, I'm psyched we even have 15 people. So, you
Yeah.
know, and maybe in the next, you know, few days we get a few more people and, you know, something like that. So I don't know. That's what I envision if we went in this direction.
What would you need from us? Would you need a motion to move forward in that direction tonight?
Well,
so that we can,
I think, yeah, so, so in terms of a job posting, I think I would look for two things. Coming in tonight, a job posting, I would want to have some conversation about, I want to explore with, our legal team, if that's something they feel comfortable helping us do. Because I think, her initial conversation with me was yes, she'd be supportive in thinking that she could help us do it. If we decided to go in a direction on our own, if not, that was fine too. But if that's the case, I would like to revisit that. If it's not, then we would maybe have to like consider, finding somebody to help us do that, maybe. Okay. Because I think that, I don't know. So I'd have to explore that a little bit. But if we can do that on our own, I'd like to keep our timeline tight and close, so that people know that we're serious about this. This is we're very serious about getting a candidate who's very serious about doing this with us. And if it doesn't work out, then we still have time to go externally, and we still have time. So,
if you're ready, I have a suggested motion to make. And see put that on the table for discussion. Sorry, I am feeling awful. So I'd like to make a motion to allow the chair to move forward with discussions with legal surrounding an internal candidate job posting. Thank you. And then come back and discuss.
so our meeting is February 9th.
So that's, like 2 weeks.
Do you want to wait that long to do a job posting?
What do you mean?
No, because then we'd
You
have to
wouldn't want
come,
to just have-
that motion is just to
No.
have the discussion. I think we need to,
Like, I would almost want to have a job posting up by like the end of next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
more what I meant, actually.
Yeah.
So that I meant to allow the chair to move forward with our legal counsel
Okay.
to post.
Right, speak with legal, come up with it, post it.
Yes.
Okay, and if that's not possible, then come back to the committee on the 9th.
Yeah, through you, I would like to allow you to make that action.
Okay.
So, motion
Yeah.
to allow the chair to move forward with counsel to post an internal position for the next superintendent.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. And then another topic for a job posting is, I need to put a, pay, I need to put pay.
Oh, a salary proposition,
Salary, yeah.
proposal?
Yeah, so, I mean, I can propose a range.
Okay, just thinking, it's, because the figures are public, right?
Industry standard,
Yeah.
based on industry and surrounding standard.
Yeah.
There's gotta be a
Yeah,
salary differential that's out there.
Can our legal help us with that, what that range looks like?
I have a proposal.
you what?
I mean, I think based on what, I mean, we know,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
we know.
but we have to post it in the posting, right? It has to be,
A range.
I
yeah,
need a range.
yeah.
I would propose 195 to 205.
May I ask how you arrived at that number, or those numbers?
So I pulled our posting
Mhm.
from our last superintendent search. And in looking at our budget and looking at where we're currently paying our superintendent and what we're currently paying the rest of our staff and what I think we can afford. you can certainly, you can get back, you can regroup on this.
Well, do we have to
But
vote
just
on
have
it?
to go on- It has
Because
to go into the proposal, and we really should vote on it.
I think if we can agree on that, then it's better so that we can get this posting done by the end of the year, by the end of next week.
But, I mean, where's that? So, Mrs. Caliendo, can you remember, what did we have in the job posting in, the last one? So, when we posted we posted a range, the low in the range was 190. And that was in
2021 or 22?
190 to 210.
Okay.
So do you want to go 195 to 215?
I think the 195 to 205 is a good
Yeah.
start,
I think it's fine.
given what we just listened to. And what we know about the budget and, all right. I would like to make a motion to proceed with a proposed salary of 195,000 to 205,000 on the internal job search.
Second that.
Okay, and, because it's money, Mr. Cutlass, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay. So, we post, but and I'm just throwing out dates to see if this even works. So, if we post by the 6th, I would imagine 2 weeks
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks what?
to have
To
it
have it
posted.
posted.
So
Have it-
Yeah, I think that's plenty of time for
Yeah.
internal,
Yeah.
and because that way we get enough time to go forward if we need to.
Okay, so post from the 6th to the 20th, and then that would say any of these working groups, we could call them screening groups, working groups, advisory groups, could be the first week of March. So if it closes on the 20th, then we would have to screen applicants that following week. So we would need to look at that week of the 23rd for screening. See if we have any of our community volunteers available the first week of March. Or potentially the second. And that would put, if this process is successful, public interviews with the school committee probably the second week in March.
Is that in a special meeting then, ultimately? Yeah.
If that works, in the second or third week, something like that.
Okay.
We have a regular meeting the 18th, March.
Yep.
Oh, actually, we have a budget, well, it's same, it's on the 18th, but budget and regular.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Do we need to decide these screening groups now, or can we wait until after?
No.
I had to look at a million calendars.
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay.
Anything else you think that we should discuss?
I'm good.
Right now.
I think yeah, I mean, it's,
I think we'll wait and see how this goes first,
yeah.
and then next potential options.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this timeline still gives us time if we don't find the right internal candidate to go outside before we'd have to appoint an interim. So I think that's a good plan. It's a tight timeline, but it's a good,
No, and I think, to be honest with you, for an internal, I wasn't even thinking of this, as I'm thinking about a job posting, I think for an internal job posting, I think we're fine. I was thinking about external job posting, needing support and help with.
yeah.
Right.
The motion gives you
Internal,
leverage
yeah,
to utilize if
internal,
you
I'm not
need to.
even
Right.
I'm thinking external, sorry. So internal, I think we're fine. Even if we don't have legal support, I think we could do it. So I think we'll be fine to get that posted by the 6th. And I think using, you know, I think we'll be fine. So, okay? All right. I have no other topics of issues.
No public comment.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Bye, Jamie.
unanimous, we adjourn at 6:49. Nice to see you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.